Hi guys, I miss you. I hope everyone is doing well. All right, this week we have National Babe Ruth Day, and in honor of that National Day, we are going to read The Babe and I by David Adler. Now, David Adler is also the author of the Cam Jansen Mystery Series. If you haven't read those, I think you'd really like those. You might want to give one a try. This book is historical fiction. Now, historical fiction is where that particular story is made up, but it is set in the past, and sometimes the author will put in real people from that time period. And this particular story takes place in the time of the Great Depression. Well, the Great Depression is a time in our history when people lost their jobs and didn't have enough money to feed their families. They found themselves without their income and they had to dig deep and get creative to survive. Well, this particular story is also about a boy and his friend Jacob and a life-changing event that the boy goes through. And the small part that Babe Ruth, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, he played for the New York Yankees. And anyway, it's about the small part that Babe Ruth played in helping this boy discover different things. All right, The Babe and I. For my birthday, I was hoping my parents would give me a bicycle. They only gave me a dime. Now let me tell you that the dime went farther back then. It was still 10 cents, but you could get a lot more with it. I was disappointed, but not surprised. It was 1932, in the midst of the Great Depression, and millions of people were out of work. We were lucky. My father had a job, but we never seemed to have much money. Where we lived, in the Bronx, New York, everyone was poor. "Happy birthday," Dad said when I walked him outside. I watched him go off carrying his briefcase and smiling. My neighbor Jacob was tossing a ball and catching it. He threw it to me and shouted, "Give me a high one. I'm Babe Ruth, the world's greatest baseball player." I threw the ball, and Jacob reached up. It bounced off his hand. He was no Babe Ruth. We played for a while, and then Jacob said, "I have to go to work. Come with me. We can have a catch while we walk." A few blocks from home we passed a woman selling apples. Her clothes were wrinkled and shabby. I gave her my birthday dime and bought 2 apples, one for me and one for Jacob. I was glad to be rid of that dime. It reminded me of the present I didn't get. We turned onto Webster Avenue, and there were more apple sellers. Near the next corner I saw a large briefcase. I looked up, and there was Dad selling apples like the others. Suddenly, I couldn't move. "Come on," Jacob said. I pointed. "Oh," he whispered, "I thought your dad had a job." So did I, and Mom thinks so too. There were tears in my eyes as I watched people walk past my father. I wished so much someone would buy an apple from him, but no one did. I didn't realize he had earned my birthday dime and was sorry I had spent it. "I have to get to work," Jacob whispered. I was too dazed to know where we were going. I just followed Jacob until we came to a small building. "My dad is out of work too," Jacob said as he got in line. "That's why I'm a newsie. Sell newspapers with me. It's fun." I didn't feel like going home, so I stayed with Jacob. We collected our papers, and he said, "Now I'll teach you how to really sell." We walked past a newsie on the corner. "Coney Island fire!" he called out. 1,000 homeless. Read all about it." There were lots of people around, but I didn't see anyone buy a newspaper. Jacob and I passed other newsies calling out about the fire. Then we walked beyond the busy streets and apartment buildings. "Where are we going?" I asked. "You'll see," Jacob said. We walked until we came to an elevated train station. People were rushing from it to the large ballpark just ahead. "We're here," Jacob said. "That's Yankee Stadium." I held up one of my newspapers and called out the headline, "Coney Island Fire, read all about it." "No," Jacob said. "No one here is interested in fires." He picked up a newspaper and looked through it. "Here it is," he said. "This is what they want." "Babe Ruth hits home run," he called out. "Read all about it." "The Babe hits number 25. Read all about it." "Here, I'll take one," a man said, and gave Jacob 2 cents. "Let me see that," another man said. Jacob was smart. These people were on their way to see a Yankees game. Of course they were interested in Babe Ruth. "Babe Ruth hits home run," I called out. "Read all about it." Jacob and I quickly sold all our papers. When we left the stadium, the coins in my pocket made a nice jingling sound. We went back to the small building and paid a penny for each paper we had sold. That left me with 25 cents. When I got home, I didn't tell Mom about Dad and the apples, but I told her about my job. She put the coins I earned in our money jar and said, "Don't say anything to your father about the newspapers. It might embarrass him to know you're helping out." Later, Dad came home and put some coins in the jar. He took off his shoes, stretched out on the couch, and said, "I was really busy in the office today. I'm tired." I wanted to tell him he didn't have to pretend he still had a job, but I couldn't. I just looked at Dad's briefcase and wondered what he had in there. The next day, Jacob and I called out about Babe Ruth again. He had hit his 26th home run. I quickly sold my newspapers. I knew I could have sold more if only I had some way to get them to the stadium. When I got home, I searched the basement of our building for a wagon or anything with wheels. All I found were boxes and a torn suitcase. Just before I went back upstairs, I saw Mrs. Johnson pushing her baby in a carriage. "Could I borrow that?" I asked. "Why?" she asked. "You don't have a baby." I told her about the newspapers. "I suppose so," Miss Johnson said, thinking. "But this would have to be a business arrangement. With my carriage you'll make extra money, so I should make some too." She offered to rent the carriage to me for 10 cents an afternoon, and I agreed. On Monday, the front page story was about a 19-year-old boy who had robbed a telegraph office because he wanted to be arrested. He knew he would get something to eat in jail. Jacob and I didn't call out about the boy. We called out about Babe Ruth. He had won a game for the Yankees with a hit in the 12th inning. Thanks to Mrs. Johnson's carriage, I sold lots of papers. I had 80 cents to give Mom for the money jar. When Dad came home, he gave Mom a bottle of milk and a bag of apples, and said, "I bought the apples from an unemployed man I passed on my way home." "Dad," I said, "that man is not unemployed. Selling apples is a job." "No, it's not," he said sharply. "It's just what you do while you wait and hope for something better." He looked upset, and I realized how important it was for him to keep his secret. On Tuesday, Jacob and I called out, "Babe Ruth collapses, read all about it." And on Wednesday, "Babe Ruth stays home. He had hurt his leg, and doctors told him he wouldn't be able to play for 3 weeks." That night, Dad asked me to walk with him. When we were a few blocks from home, he said, "Today I saw you pushing Mrs. Johnson's baby carriage. I spoke with her, and she told me about the newspapers. I'm just trying to help, Dad." He said, "I know." Dad held my hand firmly. We walked quietly for a while, and then Dad asked, "Were you ever on Webster Avenue?" "Once." He squeezed my hand. Tears were rolling down his cheeks. "I didn't tell Mom," I said. Dad didn't say anything after that. I didn't either. We just walked. The next day, Jacob and I called out, "Babe Ruth sits with fans. Read all about it." "Here, kid, I'll take one." A tall man gave me a $5 bill. "I'm sorry," I told him. I can't change that." "That's okay, kid. Keep the change." I just looked at the money. I couldn't believe anybody would pay that much for a newspaper. Jacob ran to me. "Do you know who that was?" he asked. "You sold a paper to Babe Ruth." In the few pictures I had seen of Babe Ruth, he was wearing his baseball uniform. I didn't recognize him without it. "Wow," I said, "I just sold a newspaper to Babe Ruth." I kept one hand in my pocket, holding on to my Babe Ruth bill. With my other hand I sold newspapers, and I kept looking across the street toward where Babe Ruth had gone. When all our papers were sold, I pointed to Yankee Stadium and told Jacob, "I'm going over there. I needed to see Babe Ruth again." I checked the prices and realized I could buy 2 tickets and still have plenty left for the money jar. So that's what I did. The stadium was noisy. Jacob and I walked through a short tunnel and saw a large baseball field. Babe Ruth was in the Yankee dugout with his teammates. When the final game started, he stayed there. I guess his leg still hurt. I tried to watch everything: the pitcher, the catcher, the batter, the players on the field, and Babe Ruth. Near the end of the game, with the score tied, the Yankee catcher didn't come up to bat. Out came Babe Ruth. Everyone shouted and waved. I think I cheered the loudest. "He paid for my tickets," I told the man next to us. "He gave me $5 so I could see the game." The man smiled. I think the Red Sox pitcher was afraid Babe Ruth would hit a home run. He purposely threw wide of the plate 4 times and walked the babe. We cheered again as Babe Ruth slowly walked to first base. We knew he couldn't hit a home run every time, but at least the babe was back. Babe Ruth was part of the 1932 Yankees. That year they were the best team in baseball. He and I were a team too. His home runs helped me sell newspapers. As I left Yankee Stadium with the coins I had earned making that nice jingling sound in my pocket, I knew Dad and I were also a team. We were both working to get our family through hard times. All right, let me read the author's note in the very front to you. It says a note about the story. While this story is a work of fiction, the newspaper stories of the Coney Island fire, the boy who robbed the telegraph office, and the reports of Babe Ruth's home runs, claps, visit with the fans in Yankee Stadium, and pinch-hitting appearance are all based on the actual events that were reported July 14 through July 22nd, 1932. All right, guys, I hope you liked that. It's a really neat book. All right, food for thought for you guys. All right, on that quote, "There were tears in my eyes as I watched people walk by my father." Why do you think the boy felt like that? Do you think maybe he realized that his dad, that's when he realized that that dime he got for his birthday had come from his dad selling apples? And so maybe that dime finally meant a little bit more to him, right? That present. All right, what about this? How are the boy and his dad alike? Do you think maybe that they both worked really hard to get the family through the hard times? All right. At the end, the boy spends his money on tickets to the game. Do you think that was a good idea? And why or why not? Because there's 2 thoughts. One, no, because the family needed the money. But on the other side, yes, because even during the hard times, you need to stop and enjoy life and enjoy each other. All right, how might the news about Babe Ruth's injury affect the sale of newspapers? Well, people, when you have a superstar that you're really interested in, people want to know everything about them. So that made good headlines for him, didn't it? All right, what is your opinion of a man selling apples? Okay? Well, think about this. His dad was working, doing everything he could to help his family. So that's my opinion, is that he was working really hard for his family no matter what the job was. All right, and the last one. Do you consider Jacob as being a good friend? I do, because Jacob didn't have to take him and teach him how to sell newspapers because that was his thing and that's how he was earning money. But yet he did. Not only did he comfort him when he saw his dad, but then Jacob also took him in, said, "Let me show you what I do and you can come help me and then you can earn some money." That's a really good friend. All right, guys, I hope. Oh, wait, one last one. What was the message in the story? They talked about being a team. And there were three examples about teamwork in there. Do you remember what they were? Right, the dad and the son, because they were both working for the family. Babe Ruth gave him money for the newspaper and money for he used for the ball game. But he also helped Babe Ruth's popularity by selling the newspapers and promoting it. How about the woman with the buggy? And his friend, of course. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. And please check out the other links underneath this because there's some fun things to look at. Bye. Until next week.